Hello, this is Kate from dailytarotgirl.com, and this is your weekly tarot card reading. Now, I'm using one of my newest decks, which is Zeke's Arcana. Now, I just posted the unboxing video for this deck, so you can check that out if you want to see all the cards in the deck. All right, so I'm going to cut the deck here. And I'm going to pick the top 3 cards. My intention with this week's reading is to get a snapshot of the week ahead, specifically the opportunities and, ideas that we should be taking advantage of this week. My crystals are kind of in the way here. Okay. So I'm excited to read with this deck, because it's so bright and so colorful and so fun. Okay, so the first card represents Monday and Tuesday-ish, so the beginning of the week. And here we have the 9 of Pentacles. Okay. 9 of Pentacles is one of my favorite cards, especially when it comes to the suit of Pentacles. So it represents a bunch of things. Mainly, it represents being able to relax and enjoy life. Whenever the 9 of Pentacles shows up in a reading, it's telling you to slow down. To slow down and kind of stop and smell the roses and be more present in the here and now. Oftentimes I'll get this card in a reading when I'm, maybe stressed out about something or worrying too much about the future or thinking about something in the past. And the 9 of Pentacles is like, be here, be now, pay attention to your surroundings. There's a certain kind of hedonistic, almost a luscious kind of quality to the 9 of Pentacles. And here we have the grapes that kind of represent that. And this is about really engaging your senses. And what's interesting with the bird is the bird has these, I'm just gonna look at it up close. It's got like kind of blinders on over its eyes. Now, that can represent a couple different things. But in this case, it represents what happens when we inhibit one of our senses. So in this case, the eyes. So when you put a blindfold on and then you eat something or touch something, your other senses are more heightened. And so this is just a really nice reminder to get into your body and pay attention to your 5 senses. And when you tap into those 5 senses, you become embodied, you become present in the moment, and there's a part of you that kind of sparks and comes to life when you do that. And so that is kind of the reminder of the beginning of the week. All right, let's have a look at the second card. So this card represents middle of the week, so like Wednesday, Thursday-ish, and here we have the 3 of Swords. All right. Oh, 3 of Swords is a trickier card, and it symbolizes the end of illusion. It can also sometimes symbolize the heartbreak that comes with that end of illusion. So if you've been looking at a situation or a person through rose-colored lenses and seeing what you want to see, then when you suddenly are able to see something as it is instead of through the lens of what you want to see, that can be a harsh experience sometimes. It can be a little bit upsetting, and it can be something that in its extreme can be heartbreaking. So what does this card mean for us? It could mean different things depending on you and where you're at and what experiences you're having. So I think that ultimately the 3 of Swords in the middle of the week represents an opportunity to set your illusions aside and look at something with the pure vision of, being able to see the facts, being able to see the truth of a situation without putting on those rose-colored glasses. It'll be interesting to see what the next card is. Another message I get with this card is that when you look at the world through your heart, through the eyes of your heart, as opposed to your mind, you will see different things. So I think we're all and I'm going to explain this because that's kind of a weird thing to say, but we're all so used to looking at the world through the eyes in our head, so through our intellect, through the mind. But when we drop down into the heart and we use that heart, the organ of perception, to look at things and perceive things, we have a very different experience and a different understanding. I've tried this a lot with plants. So holding a plant and using my heart to feel into that plant and connect with it. And what I notice happening when I do this, when I connect with a plant through my heart, when I look at a plant through the eyes of my heart, is I notice that I feel a sense of connection with it, and I have this very different experience of that plant. It starts to talk to me and communicate with me. And of course that sounds really kind of loopy, and it is, it's wild, but I feel everything comes alive when you look at the world through your heart and you begin to notice things that you wouldn't otherwise notice. And I think the tears on this card can represent what happens when we drop down into our heart and look at the world through that lens. We see things different, and when we become more compassionate, we also may become more emotional and see the pain that is in many places. Okay, so let's have a look at card number 3. This is the card for the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we have the, interesting. Okay, so we have the, is this the 9 or the 10 of swords? I'm going to have to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 9 of swords. Okay, so this is the 9 of swords that we have. And what is shocking to me is that both of these cards have eyes with tears coming out of them. Like, it's so weird, like right here and right here. We both have the eyes with the tears. So that's pretty profound, I think. So let's talk a little bit about the 9 of swords and what that card can represent. So in the Rider-Waite version, this card shows someone who's sitting up in bed and they have their head in their hands, and they could be crying or they could just be kind of stressed out or whatever. And the 9 of swords represents what happens when we give our minds free rein to do whatever they want. So if you've ever noticed, minds are often overactive and they like to have something to do. So I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but sometimes I find when I'm at a point in my life where I don't have any major problems, there's no drama, nothing's happening, my mind will create dramas of its own. It will start to find things to chew on. It will find things to get wrapped up in. And it will kind of glom onto things. And it's almost like the mind is just really restless and it just needs something to do. And so sometimes if we just let our mind do what it wants to do, it can be a stressful thing. The mind is really good at creating drama and things to stress out about. And my mind is really good at churning out stressful, anxious thoughts. And if one of those thoughts pops up, if I believe that thought and dwell on it, then another stressful thought will come up, usually more stressful than the first one. And then pretty soon a real spiral can happen where you're all of a sudden in the depths of despair or anxiety or sadness or whatever, just from kind of allowing your thoughts to run rampant. And so whenever the Nine of Swords shows up, it's an opportunity to look at that, to stand back and look at your mind and the thoughts that it's churning out in an objective kind of way. And that's what the eye here represents. I mean, it represents, the tears represent the pain that happens when we believe every thought that we think. But the eye also represents an opportunity to look at something clearly and be aware of it. And then the swords like this form a ladder. So it's this opportunity to step out, climb out of whatever anxiety spiral you're in or negative thought spiral, and rise above all the mist and the fog and the thorns that that make up the mind sometimes. And of course, our minds are also wonderful, and they can, just as they can churn out negative, stressful thoughts, they can also produce really positive, loving, joyful thoughts as well. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at all three of these cards together. What's standing out to me, I mean, we have two nines. We have Nine of Pentacles, Nine of Swords. I think the message of the Nine of Pentacles is a key to how to deal with the Nine of Swords. So when you are feeling stressed out or anxious or in a negative thought spiral, checking in with your five senses can be so powerful. So checking in with, noticing your breath, noticing like your sense of touch, what are you feeling? How does your body feel right now touching the chair? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? And just really checking in with each sense, and that brings you into your body, brings you into the present moment, and it brings you out of your head. So that can be a very powerful exercise to do when you feel anxious. And the theme that I'm noticing with these cards is the eyes. So the last two cards had the eyeballs with the tear. And these eyes, both of them are kind of being pierced. Like there's the sword going in here, and then there's the thorns going in there. And I think that has to do with, it's like your perception of things have been skewered in a way. It's like your perception has been pierced, and it's like we're being forced to look at something through a clear gaze. And what's interesting is that the eyes of the bird are covered in the beginning. So it's like you start out maybe not being totally aware of things, and then as the week progresses, there's more awareness. And sometimes with that awareness comes stress, but also clarity and peace. Okay, so interesting themes this week, and I'm interested to see how this will all play out. I think there's a lot of opportunities here, though, opportunities to connect with the heart, opportunities to get an objective kind of look at the mind and how it works. And I think all in all, there's lots of opportunities to become more embodied and connected to our physical bodies, and also opportunities to become more aware, more enlightened. So thank you so much for watching. I am using Zeke's Arcana for this reading, and feel free to subscribe to my channel. I post these videos every week. And feel free also to leave me a comment and let me know what you think of these cards. If you had a different take or a similar take, I'd love to hear it. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful week.